So today we're going to talk about books that I have that I know I'm going to love, but I just haven't read quite yet. And here is the list. I'm just kidding. I'll show you guys. Hopefully it centers. Yeah, it looks like it centers so that you guys can see. But yeah, these are just books that I know the minute I pick them up, I'm really going to enjoy them. I'm really going to find a lot in them. It's just I haven't picked them up. And the first thing I have is Paradise Lost by John Milton. This is something I've read a little bit of when I was in high school, but my teacher didn't want to spend the entire, I think, year talking about Paradise Lost. So she just gave us a brief overview of it and just read the important chapters. But this is something that I really wanted to delve into because a lot of people that I really do enjoy have just been completely moved by this work, such as William Blake and Jorge Luis Borges. Those two alone should really give me sort of an inkling to pick up this book because those two are some of my favorite writers, and I find myself just becoming so engrossed in their world. So whatever inspires those people are really going to inspire me. But if you're not familiar with Paradise Lost, it's essentially John Milton trying to rewrite the Genesis story, kind of add some context to it, and it's really an attempt for him to kind of break away from nobility. He hated nobility, he hated aristocracy, and it's kind of his attempt to rewrite a story and rewrite it in this sort of Promethean way. He kind of doesn't make Satan the bad guy. It's more so he's kind of misguided, and that he's closer to Prometheus than he is what we think of the devil. And it's just an interesting sort of thing to write. I really want to read it. I really want to get into it because I know I'm going to find a lot of stuff interesting in this and a lot of stuff fascinating in it. And yeah, but that's it. We'll get into the next thing. The next thing I have is Don Quixote by Cervantes. I don't know how to say it. I'm sorry. I have to learn other languages because I feel like such an idiot when I try to say these things. And I feel like that's really the next step in my development, is to learn different languages and understand different contexts and understand the authors that I love in their own native languages and their own sort of way of viewing the world. I think that's really the next step in my evolution. But this is perhaps the first modern novel, I think, is what people consider this. And this is essentially, there's a knight, and he doesn't necessarily know that he's not a knight, and he goes throughout the world, and there's just all sorts of escapades. Basically, this man is Don Quixote. He thinks he's a knight, but he's not really, and the whole world is telling him otherwise, and he's kind of just unwilling to accept this, unwilling to accept reality. And it's just it has everything in it that I really love about stories. It has just a unique plot. It has so much to it, and it's inspired people such as, again, Borges, who I really love. And I've seen it cited so many times. It's just like, it's one of those works that certainly has just done so much for the idea of narrative, for the idea of writing, for the idea of a story. And it's just, whenever you hear something put in that high regard, like, I know I'm going to find something in it because I always find something in those works that are so universal. So yeah, I'm excited to pick it up. The next thing I have is Brutus and Orator by Cicero. I just wanted to make sure I got this right because it just sounds clunky saying it. But if you don't know who Cicero is a really interesting figure. Basically seen as one of the greatest, if not greatest, statesmen in all of the Roman Republic. The greatest lawyer alive at the time. There's all sorts of really interesting stories. I'll just tell you a few here so you get a little context on who Cicero was. There's a very famous case where this guy was basically stealing money from the Roman Republic, and Cicero was the one prosecuting him, and Cicero gave this great opening speech, and the guy completely refused to respond and accepted the exile and just didn't want to show his face in public ever again because Cicero just destroyed all credibility he ever had and destroyed any hope of ever being seen as a respectable human. So the guy willingly went into exile, even though he was kind of just gonna, I don't think he was gonna get away with it, but he definitely wasn't going to necessarily get the harsh punishment that he put on himself, just because that's just the level of person Cicero was. And Cicero also knowingly wrote his own death warrant when he wrote a letter to Mark Antony, basically calling him a fool, basically saying he has no skills, calling him a prostitute. And at the time, he's calling the most powerful man in the entire world Caesar's successor all of these horrible things, saying all of these things, and he knowingly wrote this saying that, yeah, it's probably it for me. And then the soldier that was going to carry out Mark Antony's orders, Cicero says to him, what you're going to do is dishonorable, but do it with honor. And I think that is one of the coolest ways to go out, just not even letting the person that is taking you out have the satisfaction of knowing that you're scared, or knowing that what they're doing caused any sort of harm to you. So yeah, I love Cicero, and I'm really interested into seeing what Cicero says about the art of speaking, the art of persuasion, the art of saying something, the art of carrying a voice, because back then there was much more focus put on the performance of speaking, the idea of it. It was seen as a science, as an art, as something that wasn't kind of just done on a daily basis. And it's really interesting to sort of think about these ideas and think about how we can apply them into our own lives, because I don't know about you, but there's a baseline level of persuasion or of charm to everyday life, and I really am interested in to see what Cicero says about it. And the more I study, the more I'm just like fascinated by the Greeks and how much they had things figured out and how simply they put everything. Obviously Cicero's a Roman, but I really kind of combine those two because they're one and the same to me. Cicero was very much adept in studying the Greeks. He very much probably was inspired mostly by Greeks, not so much the Roman kind of tradition. But anyway, even back then it was seen as like a what's the word? It was like a high class thing to do, to speak in Greek, not even to speak in Latin. Like Latin's the language of the Roman Empire, but like the people that could speak Greek, oh, those were the people that were really smart. Oh, those were the people that were really intelligent. So very, very interesting stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not like interested in the history of the Roman Empire or the Greeks or any sort of history. I'm just interested in the people. Like I find Caesar more interesting than any sort of battle. I find the character, I find the scenario, I find everything about him more interesting than whatever you could tell me about this battle happened on this day. But I don't know. I don't know if that's just me. And the last thing we have is the Aeneid. I bet you could see a trend here is that we're talking about very old books. And the thing about old books that really get me is that it kind of teaches you that we really haven't evolved past what we think we have. And what I'm trying to say is that we're not as far along as we think we are. We really haven't gotten past a lot of really simple issues that human beings have been facing for thousands of years. And once you can see somebody solve something, and once you can see somebody deal with something, and you're hearing this wisdom from thousands of years ago, it kind of puts things in perspective. It kind of shows you that what you are looking for, you already know. It's just that you're not willing to listen, and it kind of calms you down, and it kind of allows you to get out of your own head. And it's a very, how do I say this? Like, if you get advice from somebody and you're too close to it, it's difficult to understand it. So like if somebody you don't like is telling you what to do, you're probably not going to listen to it. But if you could take a step back, and if you could really look at that advice they're giving you, there's probably something in there that you can learn. But sometimes we get too caught up in our emotions and our sort of hang-ups and things that we can't quite get over. And this is also the same with stories. I feel like if you're thinking about a set time period, you're thinking about that time period instead of thinking about, what you can learn from this. Whereas the epic poems, like, we don't really know when they, well, I'm sure the Aeneid's different, but I know the Odyssey, we don't really even know when it was formed. We don't know when it was set in stone. We don't know a lot about it. So it's kind of just timeless wisdom that has been passed down to us. And it has this interesting place in sort of our minds, because it's one of those works that has just always been there. And it kind of takes you out of that perspective of needing to see the world in a certain way, because it's so far removed from anything that could bias you. It's so far removed from anything that might prevent you from seeing the bigger picture. But again, I didn't talk at all about the Aeneid, so we'll get into what it is about. Essentially, it's Virgil's response to Homer. It's Virgil's response to the idea of the Odyssey. I don't know too much about the Aeneid because I've never read it personally. Like I said, these are books that I need to read. But what I do know, it inspired Dante, so thank you, Virgil, for that alone. The Divine Comedy is one of my favorite books and will forever be one of my favorite books, and I think it's the finest piece of writing ever written. But yeah, essentially, Virgil attempts to push forward society instead of push forward the individual. The Odyssey is about pushing forward a great hero and what it takes to be a good hero, but the Aeneid's about what it takes to be a great society. And that's really the main difference. That's the main difference I know. I'm very much generalizing because, again, I haven't read this and I really do want to read it. And yeah, with that said, I am going to start reading one of these because I made myself so excited that I can't not now. So with that said, I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Peace out. I'll catch you next time.